good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for making me a part of your day. My name is Lee Parham. You might know me as Lego Lee or Lego Lee 329 from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon. I'm all over this thing we call the internet, and this is the Brickology podcast, the study of small plastic bricks. How are you doing today? I really hope you are doing well, because this world is just an utter shambles right now. I have not had a very good year, and these past couple weeks have been difficult for me in general. You guys know Murphy's Law. The reason I'm mostly familiar with Murphy's Law is because of the Christopher Nolan movie Interstellar, and Matthew McConaughey talks about it. But essentially the law is whatever bad can happen will happen. Or as Matthew McConaughey says at Interstellar, it's whatever can happen will happen. But really what the law is listed as online, at least the definitions I found online, as whatever bad can happen will happen. That is exactly what happened when I tried to record this episode of Brickology last week. It was just an absolute disaster. So I am currently recording in my normal studio. I have the normal studio. It's in the bonus room above the garage of my house. It's all good. However, last week, the air conditioning in this studio broke, and it just so happened to be like one of the hottest weeks of the year. It was like 97 degrees outside. I'm like, well, I can't record it in my normal studio because I would probably just die of heat stroke. So I went to a different room in the house and I was recording it, and I was just having a hard time recording it. Sometimes when I record podcasts, I just can't speak as well. I mean, it just happens once every 10 episodes where it's like the words coming out of my mouth just aren't flowing as well as they normally do. So it wasn't going great, and then people started mowing the lawn, and the room I was recording it in, there's a window that was probably 2 feet from me and then probably 5 feet from the lawn. And if you guys know how loud lawnmowers are, oh my goodness, it completely disrupted my entire recording. It took them like 2 hours to mow the lawn, and by that point I was super tired and well into another project, and I was just like, you know what? I hate to do this, but this episode of Brickology that I want to record, the one that I am recording now today for this week, is a special episode of Brickology, and I don't want to half-ass it. I don't want it to be lower quality, so I decided to just go ahead and postpone it. I hate doing that. I hate disappointing the fans like that, but we had to postpone this episode of Brickology, but it is now coming out. And the intro for this episode is going to be a little bit longer than normal because I just spent 3 minutes explaining why this episode didn't come out last week, and now I'm going to spend the next few minutes explaining the episode itself and how this episode of Brickology is going to be different and not what I originally planned. Now, for those of you who are longtime listeners of the show, you know all about my alternating pattern, and I feel like I pretty much mentioned the pattern in every episode of Brickology, and from my perspective, because I've recorded so many of these things, I feel like I'm just being repetitive and annoying. Please let me know if I am being repetitive, annoying, and mentioning that pattern, and if I should just cut that entirely out of Brickology in general. No one has complained about it, so I might just be overthinking it in my own head, but let me know. But I do need to explain it for this week because things with the pattern are getting messed up again. So typically what I've done in Brickology is I want to kind of honor both sides of Lego. Lego's foundation was built upon original themes that they made up themselves. Stuff like Lego Adventurers or Lego Ninjago or Galaxy Squad, which was the most recent unlicensed theme episode I did a few weeks ago. That is what Lego was built upon. However, in recent, times for Lego, and this is something that can be seen with, a lot of things in general, they have strayed away from the original ideas and made more licensed themes. So stuff like Super Mario, Harry Potter, Star Wars, you name it, they're doing a lot of licensed themes. Now, I think most people love the licensed themes because it's based off their favorite movies, video games, TV shows, you name it. People love the licensed themes, but I also want to make a lot of episodes of Brickology about the original stuff Lego has just made in-house. So to kind of compromise, I had been alternating between doing a licensed theme and an unlicensed theme each week. But the beginning of this season, because Lego Super Mario had just come out, I decided to do that episode as soon as I could, which meant that the first 2 episodes of this season were my typical season premiere. That's a Star Wars episode and then Super Mario. And then to make up for doing 2 straight licensed themes, I did 2 straight unlicensed themes, and then the last episode, which was 2 weeks ago, the Lone Ranger episode, that episode was supposed to be the pattern getting back to normal. And this week, which is the 6th episode of the season, was supposed to be my Ninjago episode. I did an Ninjago episode for the 6th episode in season 1 and 2. Both those episodes were wildly successful, so of course I planned a follow-up Ninjago episode for this season. However, because of one event that happened a couple weeks ago now, but I'll reference it here in just a minute, I decided I needed to scrap that plan and just do a special episode of Brickology to honor a particular thing. And if you're listening to the episode, you know what it is, but I won't blow what that is just quite yet. So basically, here is how the rest of this season is going to play out. This episode is going to be unique and special and kind of a one-time thing. I'm not going to completely screw up the pattern and schedule. It will mess up, and there will be 3 straight weeks of licensed themes, and then after that, everything will go according to plan. Next week's episode, which is going to be the 2nd Star Wars episode of this particular season, will remain the same. The episode in 2 weeks was originally supposed to be LEGO Adventurers Jungle. However, I decided that episode is just not going to happen this season. Sorry, LEGO Adventures fans. I'm sure you guys are disappointed. I sincerely apologize. That episode will have to wait until season 4, so it probably won't be a hot minute until we get that episode. So instead, in 2 weeks, I will be doing the Ninjago episode that was planned for this week, and then we'll have a Harry Potter episode, and then we'll have the fan-voted episode in the Q&A to end season 3, and everything should continue normally from there. So I hope all that made sense. I need to clear all of that up, and this is going to be a very long intro to this episode, and truthfully, we're not even really going to talk about LEGO for a lot of this episode because of the thing I'm about to talk about here in just a second. And the reason why I decided to kind of, mess up the whole schedule in the way that I am is because I want this episode to be a tribute. This episode is going to be honoring the memory of a late actor, and that is Chadwick Boseman. The passing of Chadwick Boseman, he died, I think, a little bit under 2 weeks ago. It might have been exactly 2 weeks ago from the day this episode will be premiering. What an absolutely tragic death. And similar to the way that I did my LEGO Sports episode. If you're a longtime fan of the show, you would know about this, but if you don't, the 2nd episode of Brickology ever, Brickology Episode 2, Season 1, Episode 2, was about LEGO Sports, and I specifically did that episode to honor the memory of the late Kobe Bryant. So similar to the way Kobe passed away earlier in 2020, I'm going to be doing an episode today honoring the memory of Chadwick Boseman, and I'll do a long tribute to Chadwick the actor and the person he is, and then talk about his relation to LEGO. So this week's quote-unquote theme is LEGO Black Panther. Now, LEGO Black Panther technically isn't really a theme. It all fits under the Marvel superheroes umbrella, and I actually haven't even touched any LEGO superheroes, Marvel or DC, yet here on Brickology, and that's because I've been struggling to figure out how to do a Marvel episode. This is going to be my first ever Marvel episode, and I'd love to hear your feedback on how I should do Marvel episodes in the future. There's a Black Widow movie coming out in a couple months here in November. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it actually gets released on its new date, and I, want to do something special for when that's released. So should I do these Marvel episodes based on the characters or based on the movies they're specifically in? What do you guys want to see? Today, I'm going to be doing an episode about Black Panther. So every single LEGO set or whatever that Black Panther, the character, has appeared in. So I could do that for Black Widow when that movie comes out. But however, that means I'm going to have to do stuff based off a bunch of different movies. That's what I'm going to be doing today specifically for Black Panther, and I figure it's really the only way to do it for Black Panther. And I'd love to hear what you guys think about that and helping me decide how to go on with making these Black Panther and more, broader Marvel episodes. Let me know in the comments on YouTube, or message me on Instagram, or email me at legolee329@gmail.com. I would love to hear your feedback on that. So that's the long intro for today's episode, and now let's honor the memory of the late Chadwick Boseman. So Chadwick Boseman passed away a couple of weeks ago now, and this news absolutely just shook me. It shook me to my core. It's one of the more shocking celebrity deaths I've ever seen in my entire life. And, celebrity deaths are an interesting thing because obviously we don't actually know these people. Very few people are actually like personal friends with Chadwick Boseman. I was probably never going to meet Chadwick Boseman or going to meet anybody who dies from a horrible celebrity death. I mean, it's a very odd thing, but occasionally a celebrity death comes out and it absolutely just shakes you to your core. And it makes you incredibly heartbroken and sad. And there's lots of celebrity deaths that happen. Like Kirk Douglas died earlier this year, I believe, but he was like 103 years old. That man lived a beautiful and long life. Same thing with Christopher Lee, who played Count Dooku or Saruman in the Lord of the Rings movies. I mean, that man died in his mid-90s. Stan Lee was 95 when he died. Those deaths, it's awful. Anytime anybody dies, it's awful. But it's not as sad when someone dies of old age and because they had a full, long, beautiful life. But when a celebrity who's in the prime of their life, in the prime of their career, dies of something so shocking and out of, completely nowhere, it is so, so, so sad. And only 3 times really that I can recount that a celebrity death legitimately brought me to tears. One that happened a few years ago, I believe in 2016, was when Carrie Fisher died. Obviously, Carrie Fisher is known for playing Princess Leia in the original trilogy of Star Wars films and the new trilogy of the Disney sequel trilogy Star Wars films. And when she died, I was heartbroken and very sad. And that was a horrible death. And then Kobe Bryant's death that I mentioned just a few minutes ago, that death, same thing. Kobe Bryant was a childhood hero of mine. I grew up watching him play basketball, and that death was so unexpected and horrible. And then just a couple weeks ago, Chadwick Boseman dying of colon cancer at the age of 43. This is a hard one. This is one of the harder celebrity deaths I've ever had to see. And I think of all those people that I've mentioned, this man was entering the prime of his career. He had the best parts of his career ahead of him. He was Marvel's new frontline A-list star to kind of lead the next generation of Avengers movies for us. And I'll talk about his films here in just a second. So for him to pass away like this, at this moment in time, especially in 2020, and I'll talk about kind of the cultural impact Chadwick Boseman has had throughout his career, it is so sad and an absolutely tragic loss for Hollywood. And I think one of the more wild things about this is that I didn't know he had cancer. No one knew he had cancer. I actually remember one of my friends showing me a picture and she's like, hey, Chadwick Boseman looks really skinny in this selfie he posted recently. I was like, yeah, he doesn't look too good. And I was kind of confused why he looked so skinny. And unfortunately, because the internet's a horrible place, this man was getting hate online for being skinny. And now we know the reason he looked so sickly was because he was sick. He had colon cancer that took his life at 43 years old. This is a horrible and sad, tragic celebrity death, and that is why today's episode, we will get to the Lego stuff. Obviously, Brickology is a Lego podcast, and I don't like things being super somber like they are right now, but I need to honor this man's legacy for what he's done to me personally, for what he has done to culture and Hollywood and entertainment and film. So now let's talk about Chadwick Boseman's films and kind of my personal experience with him as a performer. So I first saw Chadwick Boseman in the movie 42. It was released in 2013, so over 7 years ago. And obviously 42 is the story of Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson, for those of you who don't know, I'm guessing you all know who Jackie Robinson is, but just in case you don't, I'll explain it very briefly. Jackie Robinson was the first ever African-American professional baseball player in the MLB. He played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And first off, he was an incredible athlete, incredible baseball player, and the scrutiny that he went through being the, first ever black professional baseball player was utterly ridiculous. It was a time in America where racial tensions were just insane. And the fact that that man braved his way through it to play ball is incredible. And Jackie Robinson is an icon of the civil rights movement. He's an icon of sports. And honestly, he's just an icon of American and world history in general. And Chadwick Boseman played him. And surprisingly, I mean, Chadwick Boseman was a relatively unknown actor. He'd had some minor roles on TV shows before he starred in 42, but for the most part, he was a relative unknown. And this man stole the show. He was incredible in 42. He gave an absolutely brilliant performance, and he went toe-to-toe with the Harrison Ford. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Harrison Ford. If you haven't seen the movie, Han Solo / Indiana Jones himself is in this movie, and Chadwick Boseman, honestly, frankly, probably outacts Harrison Ford in that movie, which is incredible. And you could tell this guy was going to be a special star in Hollywood moving forward after that particular performance. And a couple years later, I believe it was about 2015 maybe, he was announced as Black Panther for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I was so psyched to see him as Black Panther. It was honestly a dream casting, really. You know, when these actors get cast, most of the time, a lot of times, you know, people question it. You know, people will really question when someone like Ben Affleck gets cast as Batman, or Robert Pattinson as Batman more recently, you know, or Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. I mean, a lot of these castings really get a lot of questions from fans. But when Chadwick Boseman was announced as Black Panther, you're like, you know what? I love that. I love everything about that casting. That is perfect casting. Well done, Disney and Marvel. And Chadwick as Black Panther had an awesome run in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He first appeared in Captain America Civil War, which was released in the summer of 2016. And he was a side character in the movie, but he had a pretty big role that was integral to the plot. And the character has a fantastic arc in the film. I mean, seriously, Black Panther has one of the more compelling arcs of any character in Captain America Civil War, and he goes from just being revenge driven in that movie to actually having a very, you know, forgiving arc to a character that did something horrible to him. I won't spoil exactly everything that happened just in case you haven't seen the movie, but I mean, seriously, he stole the show in that movie. He gave a great first performance as the character of T'Challa / Black Panther, and just brought something awesome and emotional to an awesome character arc. And that led into his own standalone Black Panther film that was released in February of 2018. And there's a lot to say about the first Black Panther movie. First off, it's an awesome first solo feature for Black Panther, and it was groundbreaking for its pretty much all black cast. Besides a couple of actors, pretty much all of the main characters in the film were black, and it's set in Africa, and that is so awesome and so cool. And obviously there had been movies with, you know, black leads in the past, but for a movie with the budget and scale of this one, with an all black cast to come out and just absolutely dominate the box office, is revolutionary and really, I think, opened the eyes of Hollywood and so many people. And my experience seeing it is I went with a big group of friends, and this is the first time this group of friends of mine in college all went to go see a Marvel premiere together, and that kind of blossomed into this beautiful friendship kind of thing where we started making these giant groups to go see all these Marvel premieres, and I'll talk about that in just a second. And basically, I also took my parents to go see this movie 2 days after I saw it on opening night, and we went to a theater that is very close to my house and is very near and dear to my heart because it's the theater that's the closest to my house. I've been to that theater more times than any other movie theater in the world. And we went to that theater, but this theater, it's not in a great part of town. It's kind of run down and it's really cheap, and it's usually, there's not too many people there. There were so many people there. It was insane. The entire lobby was filled. The line was literally going out of the door, and we had to come back later and buy tickets online just to go see Black Panther that day because the original showing we were trying to go to was literally sold out. This movie was a cultural phenomenon. It just destroyed box office records. The soundtrack from Kendrick Lamar was awesome, and Ludwig Göransson, a fantastic composer, won an Oscar for his score for the movie, which was an awesome score as well. And this movie was nominated for, I believe, 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture This is a comic book movie, y'all. A comic book movie that got a Best Picture nomination. That is unprecedented and unheard of, which is such a monumental achievement for this film. And it won 3 Oscars as well, which was super cool. What an amazing film and experience. And then Chadwick Boseman, I mean, he's in 2 more Marvel movies. Infinity War, which was an awesome movie. Again, like I said, I went with a big group of people. I think 14 people. We went to go see this movie on opening night, and it was amazing. He's not in the movie a ton, but when he is, it's great, and he steals the show. That scene where him and Captain America, because they're both, super powered and they're running faster than everyone else, is really, really cool. And Wakanda, of course, plays an integral role in the climax of that film. And obviously, spoiler alert for Infinity War. If you haven't seen this movie, I'm not sure what you're doing. You're probably living under a rock. But spoiler alert for Infinity War, seeing him fade away into dust at the end of that movie was shocking and so sad. I just could not believe that they did that to the character. And then obviously he comes back in Avengers Endgame. Another spoiler alert. I think you guys have probably all seen these movies by now. But Avengers Endgame, which is the biggest movie of all time, literally the highest grossing movie of all time, the group of people I went to go see Endgame was 32 people. 32 people. 32 friends of mine from college. We went to go see Avengers Endgame together, which is insane. What a massive group of people. And when he comes out of the portal in Endgame, I think you guys all know what I'm talking about. He's like the first, the marquee character to come out of the portal. There were so many cheers from the crowd. It was such an amazing moment. And there's the look that he gives Captain America. I'm getting chills just thinking about that moment. And it was very clear that Marvel was kind of passing the baton to Black Panther, T'Challa, and Chadwick Boseman to be kind of like the leader of their Avengers movies for the next decade or so. And the fact that obviously he's passed away now means that it's not going to happen, at least in that extent. I'm not sure what they'll do with the Black Panther characters and whatnot, but we won't see it exactly as they planned, which is just so incredibly sad. And Chadwick Boseman really just had such a big cultural impact. Let's talk about for a second the iconic Black characters and figures he has played throughout his career. We already mentioned Jackie Robinson. Chadwick Boseman also happened to play James Brown in a movie, and he played Thurgood Marshall in a movie. If you don't know much about those two, I won't get into it today just because I don't have enough time to explain all of that for today's episode of Brickology, but Google them. Just look it up because these are very important people throughout history. And then obviously, he played Black Panther, and Black Panther as a film and a character is bigger than just a comic book hero. This character gives young Black children a hero to look up to that looks like them. And that is so important. And the cultural impact of that is incredible and cannot be understated. Chadwick Boseman brought that character to life on screen and played him with the utmost amount of charisma and grace possible. This guy is an icon of modern day civil rights. And like I mentioned, in 2020, civil rights have been at the forefront of American culture more so than they have in decades, really. Seriously. And I think it's super important to acknowledge what he did for modern day civil rights and pushing for equality within Hollywood and entertainment. And he's definitely left the world in a better direction than he did when he was born. And I just can't think. We can't, talk about how amazing this man is. He was not only a fantastic performer and a fantastic artist, but he was an even better person. We love you, Chadwick Boseman. Like you say in Captain America Civil War, death is not the end. Rest in paradise. You are amazing. Wakanda forever. So now let's move into talking about a very brief history of the character Black Panther, aka T'Challa. Now, there's a lot I could go into. I don't have a lot of time because of that very long tribute to the late Chadwick Boseman, so I'm going to give you a very quick and abridged version of the character Black Panther. So, Black Panther was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in 1966. He first appeared in the Fantastic Four comics, interesting fact, but then later got his own Black Panther title. And the character's name, of course, is T'Challa. He is the king of Wakanda, and he is the owner of the Black Panther crown/title. And Wakanda is a fictional country that's in the heart of Africa and is hidden from the rest of the world. And Wakanda just so happens to sit on the biggest mine of the fictional metal known as vibranium. Now, vibranium is a metal that appears all throughout Marvel Comics. It's used for making Captain America's shield, among other things, in Marvel Comics. And because they sit on this mine of this highly sought after metal, Wakanda is very technologically advanced, even more so than the rest of the world. But because they're in the heart of Africa, they kind of hide themselves from the rest of the world, and most people don't even know Wakanda exists. And actually, Andy Serkis's character in the Black Panther film describes it as El Dorado, but it's actually in the heart of Africa as opposed to South America. And I obviously already went through the history of Black Panther in Marvel films, so now let's talk about Black Panther in Lego sets. So the first time Lego made a set with Black Panther was to coincide with Black Panther's first appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that set is the Black Panther Pursuit. This was a $30 287-piece set from the movie Captain America Civil War, and this set included the figures of Captain America without his mask. You also got the Winter Soldier / Bucky Barnes, and then of course the Black Panther figure himself. And this was the first appearance ever of this character in Lego. And to make his mask, they made a new piece for his ears on his helmet. This piece attaches similarly to the way Darth Maul's horns attach in the Lego Star Wars set. So it kind of goes on top of a traditional Lego minifigure head and has printed lines that match up with the printed head. And honestly, I don't love it. They've been using it ever since. I think it looks fine. It looks adequate, but I would have liked to have seen a new helmet piece, honestly, and I would love to see them make a new helmet piece in the future. The builds of this set, you got a really ugly black and blue Jeep-like truck that wasn't in the movie at all. You got a motorcycle, which the Winter Soldier can ride, that is in the movie, and that is really the only accurate build of this set, because the next build is a jet plane for Black Panther. Now, Black Panther does at one point fly a plane, but I'm pretty sure he just steals a Quinjet from that airport sequence, so not the plane he's flying. This plane is like a Wakanda style plane. It has purple coloring all throughout it, and oddly enough, the interior had lime green, which looked really out of place and weird. I believe it did use a fairly new cockpit piece for the time. It did have some cool Wakanda-esque designs for stickers on it, but this plane does not appear in the movie. And while these three characters do get into a cool chase sequence in the movie, it doesn't feature these vehicles besides the motorcycles. So all told, this set really wasn't good and really wasn't accurate, but it is the first ever set to include the Black Panther figure. Next up, for a Comic-Con exclusive in 2016, we got the Black Panther and Doctor Strange Brickheads 2-pack. And this is actually the only time Black Panther has ever been represented in Lego form in his pure comic book style outfit. This was based off Black Panther from the comics and not Black Panther from the films or a video game that we'll talk about here later on in today's episode. Obviously, that was a Comic-Con exclusive. I don't have it. Most people don't have it. It goes for hundreds on eBay, but it is worth mentioning. Fast forward 2 years, the Black Panther film obviously has just come out, and Lego makes 2 sets based off Black Panther. I really wish they had made more, but they really don't make big waves of Marvel sets for any movies that aren't Avengers specific, so getting 2 sets is honestly better than lots of these movies like Black Widow, which only got 1 set. And the first Black Panther movie set here for $20 with 229 pieces is called Rhino Face-Off by the Mine. The figures included with this set were Black Panther with his kind of charged up suit. So in the film, when Black Panther gets hit with kinetic energy, his suit charges up and then he can release said energy. In the movie, his charged up suit is very purple, but I guess because of concept art or something, the Lego figure, the charge is very blue, so it's not accurate at all to the film, but it did have some cool looking printing. You also got the main villain of the movie, Eric Killmonger, played wonderfully by Michael B. Jordan in that film, and his Black Panther suit. Obviously, you know why he has his own suit if you've watched the film, and his suit is an accurate color in black and gold, and oh boy, that suit looks awesome. That was a very, very cool looking figure. And then you got Okoye, a very important character in the Black Panther universe, so I believe that character is still exclusive to this set today, which is very, very cool. The build of this set is you got a very small little chunk of the Vibranium mine. And it's a very big mine in the movie, and LEGO could have done a much bigger set to represent this. You pretty much just get a couple of small pieces of cart, one little mine cart, and pretty much that's it. Very small representation. It didn't look bad based off its aesthetics, but it definitely could have been bigger. Then you also got one of the Rhino characters, which was a brick-built Rhino with stickers for its face armor, and this was a great build. It seriously was. It didn't really look that much like the particular rhinos in the movie, but LEGO did a very good job recreating a rhinoceros out of bricks. This was actually a really fantastic build, and kind of surprisingly, this set was voted as the best Black Panther set by my fans on Instagram. There's not a whole lot of options to choose from the best Black Panther set, but this one in particular won, and honestly, I'm having a hard time really disagreeing with that sentiment. Now, the one other set from the Black Panther wave was the $30 358-piece set known as the Royal Talon Fighter Attack. This set included Black Panther. This was a different figure that looked more like his suit from Captain America Civil War. However, his eye visor is down, which does happen in the movie, so a pretty cool variant of Black Panther. You also got Eric Killmonger with an outfit he wears earlier on in the movie with the stolen mask. You also got Nakia, who is played by Lupita Nyong'o, who plays Maz Kanata from the Star Wars sequel trilogy, so her second LEGO minifigure, and then Ulysses Klaue, who is played by the aforementioned Andy Serkis, who plays Supreme Leader Snoke and also plays Gollum. So Andy Serkis has all sorts of LEGO minifigures, and he will be playing Alfred in the future, so maybe he'll get another LEGO minifigure. This man has a lot already. And the build for this set was the Royal Talon Fighter. There were no side builds, it's pretty much just this. And you do see this vehicle a lot in the film, and the LEGO version is a little bit small, and the cockpit definitely is kind of a boring looking design, but they do use some Hero Factory Bionicle pieces to make the very interesting Talon-like shape of the side of this fighter, and it looks really, really good. They use some stickers to get some accurate details. It's a very swooshable ship. You can fit multiple figures in the cockpit. There's also a prison holding cell in the back. This was a very good set with a really good and accurate design. I actually loved the build of this set. I think the build of this set is probably a little bit better than the last one we talked about, although the last one did win the vote for the best Black Panther set. Now, there are only a couple more sets to talk about here. From Avengers Infinity War, we got a set known as the Corvus Glaive Thresher Attack. This set was $40 and had 416 pieces. The figures included were Black Panther with the open visor for his eyes. This is the exact same Black Panther figure that came in the set we just talked about. Kind of wish he got a new updated variant, but oh well. You do get Shuri in this set, played by Letitia Wright in the films. She's a great actress and her figure looks great as well. She has an awesome hairpiece and some cool accessories, and she was exclusive to this set. You also got Vision, who does play an integral part in the Wakanda sequence in Avengers Infinity War. You got Corvus Glaive, who's one of Thanos' four, weird people that all are kind of useless in the movies, but they're real creepy looking, and you do get an outrider for them to battle. Now, the builds for this set, the main build was a piece of the wall of Wakanda. I was excited that we're getting a Wakanda playset, but LEGO dropped the ball with this design. The design looks horrible. They just really didn't accurately accurately represent Wakanda. It does not look good, in my opinion. It's a black wall with some gold and purple accents. It looks really strange. It has this weird transparent purple door that can open up and some very hard to apply transparent stickers. I just don't think it looks anything like Wakanda from the movies. You also get the Thresher, which is in the name of the set, and in the movie, the Threshers are these contraptions that go underground. They're huge and destroy a lot of chunks of earth, and this Thresher was just a spinning saw blade piece that was pretty small and got fired off with a really awkward play feature using some old Bionicle pieces. This build was terrible, and it was not a good representation of the Thresher we see in Avengers Infinity War. This set was a good deal. It had some pretty good figures, but all around, I think it was a pretty disappointing set, especially for being our only real Wakanda set that LEGO has ever made. And finally, the most recent set to include the character of Black Panther is actually based off the recently released Avengers game for the Sony PlayStation, and that set is the Avengers Speeder Bike Attack. This was a $20 229-piece set, and the figures included with this set were Thor, an AIM agent, and the exclusive to this set currently, Black Panther, which is his video game version, although from my sources I've heard that Black Panther actually isn't in the video game, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on there, but this version of Black Panther is the closest thing we've ever gotten to LEGO actually making a minifigure of his costume from the comic books, as opposed to his costume from the films. And one of the best parts here is that he has that popped collar. A lot of versions of Black Panther in the comics, he has this very impressive, almost vampire-esque looking popped collar, so I do really like that inclusion with this set. And the builds of this set, the AIM agent had this really weird kind of whack looking jetpack thing on his back that's a pretty underwhelming and dumb side build, and the main build of this set is an oversized motorcycle. If you follow my YouTube channel, you've watched my reviews of sets with oversized motorcycles. I'm always super sarcastic and hating on these things because LEGO makes so many giant motorcycle builds that it's honestly kind of hilarious how many they make and how dumb they look. But for all the big motorcycles, this one actually looks pretty good. It had some very sleek designs. It didn't look half bad, and I kind of enjoyed playing with it even as a 22, 23-year-old man. So this build wasn't half bad and actually kind of makes sense for Black Panther if it's supposed to be like a Wakandan thing because of their highly advanced technology. And that's it. That was probably the shortest segment of talking about the sets versus the intro of the review, but of course, this episode is dedicated to the memory of Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick, we love you. Wakanda forever. What an awful, horrible, tragic loss just for the world in general. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm going to leave it at that. There's not much else to say. I won't be shameless or anything this episode. This is an episode for Chadwick. I think I'm going to make the thumbnail of this episode all black to support the Black Lives Matter movement that's currently very, very prevalent in my nation of the United States of America right now. Thank you guys so much for listening. Wakanda forever.